This is me trying to elytra mace. As you guys can probably tell, I am absolutely abysmal at it, and it is my goal in this video to change that. The first thing I did in order to learn the elytra mace was honestly just fly around and try macing an iron golem. And I thought this would be easy because the golem was pretty big, but I was actually pretty terrible at it. And I'd only get like a hit maybe once every 5 attempts, which is a horrible ratio. But I feel like this was partly due to the fact of like how I was flying towards the golem and I couldn't calculate when I should switch to my chest plate. And also I had pretty terrible keybinds set up, so I was just making this extra hard on myself. I think I was using alt to mace and then X to change to my chest plate, which sounds like they're close together, but when you're trying to coordinate everything, it's kind of annoying to do and it's actually pretty slow. After not making progress for a while, I decided to change my keybinds a little bit. I kept X the same and allowed it to change the chest plate or toggle my chest plate. And then instead of using alt to mace, I changed it to C, so I can use my index finger a lot more effectively to switch between the two. This actually is what I kept for the rest of the video, and I found it like really helpful to use X and C for this movement. With these new keybinds, I was able to see progress pretty quickly. I was switching between my chest plate and elytra a lot more effectively, and I was also landing a lot more hits. Now that I was decent at switching between my chest plate and hitting the mace, I had to incorporate the firework aspect of elytra macing. I didn't really set a keybind. What I ended up doing at the start was I just had my fireworks right next to my chest plate, so I just used my scroll wheel and firework and then switch back to my chest plate. Adding the firework made this a whole lot harder. The problem I'd run into was I'd be going down really fast and then I'd switch my chest plate and just would either be too short of the golem or too far from the golem. And while doing this, I popped a ton of totems. I think I died more times than I actually hit the golem. So instead of continuing to work on fireworks, I switched over to progressing on something else, which was getting more accurate mace hits. Since I was using an iron golem, it was definitely easier to hit it since an iron golem is pretty big, so I switched over to Mace Bot, which is basically just like a little AI, and it's a lot smaller, so practicing on the Mace Bot was a lot more difficult. But the second I turned on its AI, it genuinely started just dogging on me like crazy. Like this thing was cooking me non-stop. This bot made me realize that my fundamental skills for using the mace were just non-existent. I didn't really know how to wind charge properly, and I could never land any proper maces. I fought this bot for so long that all of its netherite armor broke before I was able to even kill it once. So knowing my skill, I decided to pursue something else in order to get better. I hopped on a server and started fighting real players with just a mace and some wind charges, just to get the fundamentals down. The only fundamental that I learned for the first couple of matches was that I was terrible at the game. Some of my mistakes that I started to realize were that, first of all, I have no clue where my opponent was at times. Like I'd be looking on my screen and there'd be no player. This was bad because normally you should probably keep an eye on your opponent in a fight. Also, I'd just go up and down instead of actually moving around in the air. This was causing me to get hit way more times, as I was really predictable to hit. With these things in mind, I started to win more games, and I also increased my FOV just so that I could see more. At this point, I finally started to get better. I was landing more mace hits, I was able to predict my opponents better, I was able to move around and not get hit as much, and I just overall started winning a lot more games. Over the next couple of days, I played tons of matches just to get as good as possible. A strategy that I developed, whenever I was in the air, I'd hold the S key back while I was going up and then hit the W key and go forwards as I was falling down. Doing this made it a lot more difficult for my opponent to hit me in the air, and also by doing this, I can close the distance on them when falling down and get closer and hit my mace more often. In this clip, you guys can see what I'm talking about. Slowly creeping up after a hit allowed me to get more simultaneous hits and deal more damage. Since I felt like I was getting good at wind charging and macing, I decided that if I could get 5 wins in a row, I'd move on to the next step, which is actually incorporating everything together. My final step was to put macing, switching between your chest plate, and fireworking all together and learn the elytra mace. And then eventually, my final battle on the server finally came. Okay, I think it's time I changed to a new map because that server was getting kind of old. So I set up Theobald the Bot. Bro, this thing is crazy. I'm sure someone knows what this is, but it's by Theobald the Bird, who is a YouTuber. W mans for making this because this is awesome. But essentially, you just get like a bot and you can fight it, which is nice. After booting up this map, the struggle immediately began. Although I had gotten good at macing, I still struggled heavily with coordinating chest plate switches and fireworks, with also landing a mace hit. Another challenge that I faced was whenever I hit the bot, it'd get into the air and it'd mess up the rhythm of everything, and I'd have to wait in the air while it landed and gained enough distance from me for me to get another wind burst off of it. To make it easier to coordinate everything, I changed the tick rate of the world to 10, which essentially just half the speed of everything, meaning I'd have more time to switch and line up my hits. This was basically the equivalent of listening to Yeet. Although this seemed like a good idea to learn with, I quickly found out that it wasn't all that effective as just getting good at the normal tick rate. So I decided to put it back to 20 and just continue practicing until I eventually got it. After 1 or 2 days of doing this, I was finally able to get consecutive hits pretty frequently, I'd say. The bot going into the air also wasn't a problem anymore, as I just fly up instead of waiting for it to fall down, and then by the time I got down, the bot would be ready to get hit again, so that problem was fixed. Another thing that I did that helped me a ton was binding my firework to my mouse. This made it super easy to firework and stopped any confusion with my index finger. I also binded my golden apples to my mouse just so that I could heal quickly. Learning to do this took me about a week, and this was from absolutely like no experience at all whatsoever to being able to do this. To anyone watching, I think you can absolutely learn this, that too pretty quickly if you have some experience with the mace. The overall concept of just elytra macing and switching around and fireworking, I feel like it's pretty easy to master, and I think I personally did master the concept. I'm doing air quotes around master because obviously you can still get better if you practice more, but in the time frame I spent, I think I mastered it. All that aside, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please consider liking and subscribing, as I would really appreciate that, and I kinda need that. Also, if you subscribe, you can be a part of the pre-1000 club. Imagine how much aura you could have when you tell someone, yeah, I subscribed to this guy before he even had 1,000 subs. Like, I would genuinely want to be that person. If someone told me that, I would want to be them. Bro, you're probably cringing your balls off right now, aren't you? Anyway, I appreciate that you watched and made it this far into the video. I'm gonna be leaving everything I used in this video in the description if anyone wants to try this on their own. Anyway, bye.